Robert Kennedy Jr. went from running as a Democrat presidential candidate to joining forces with President Donald J. Trump to make America great again and make America healthy again. I'm starting this off just before Robert Kennedy Jr. joined forces with President Trump. On August 20th, 2024, he posted on X, "As always, I am willing to talk with leaders of any political party to further the goals I have served for 40 years in my career and in this campaign. These are reversing the chronic disease epidemic, ending the war machine, cleaning corporate influence out of our government and toxic pollution out of our environment, protecting freedom of speech, and ending politicization of enforcement agencies." That sounds amazing, right? Well, it only gets better. The same day he posted again, the COVID pandemic was used to fundamentally change the relationship between U.S. citizens and their government. The government's public health response was not a medical response, but instead a test of technocratic power to see how the population would respond to totalitarian edicts masked as medical interventions. The government also selected the lockdown winners and losers, transferring nearly $4 trillion of wealth from the middle class and small business to Silicon Valley and big box stores. There have been no corrections and no apologies, because the government wants to be able to do it again. That is why we are hearing all the hoopla now about monkeypox and bird flu, and yet more experimental vaccines. We cannot let this happen again. We must resist. Then on August 23rd, he announced that he had a major press conference explaining why he left the Democratic Party. His post says, "The rumors were true. The rumors weren't true. To find out what's really true about my next steps in service to the mission that launched my campaign, in my own words, please watch the video of my press conference today." Now, out of this video, I selected the most important things we need to hear, just to save time because this video originally was over 20 minutes long. He explains how Democrats used to think and behave.
And back then, the Democrats were the champions of the Constitution, of civil rights. The Democrats stood against authoritarianism, against censorship, against colonialism, imperialism, and unjust wars. We were the party of labor, of the working class. The Democrats were the party of government transparency and the champion of the environment. Our party was the bulwark against big money interests and corporate power. True to its name, it was the party of democracy.
The reasons he's leaving the Democratic Party: because the Democratic Party left him.
As you know, I left that party in October because it had departed so dramatically from the core values that I grew up with. It had become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money.
Trump asked him to come on board with his administration less than 2 hours after Trump was almost assassinated.
But now one of the two candidates has adopted these issues as his own, to the point where he has asked to enlist me in his administration. I'm speaking, of course, of Donald Trump. Less than 2 hours after President Trump narrowly escaped assassination,
he explains how Callie Means, who is a leading advocate for food safety, was not only advising him, but also Trump.
Callie Means called me on my cell phone. I was then in Las Vegas. Callie is arguably the leading advocate for food safety, for soil regeneration, and for ending the chronic disease epidemic that is destroying America's health and ruining our economy. Callie has exposed the insidious corruption at the FDA, the NIH, the HHS, and the USDA that has caused the epidemic. Callie had been working on and off for my campaign, advising me on those subjects since the beginning. And those subjects have been my primary focus for the last 20 years. I was delighted when Callie told me that day that he had also been advising President Trump.
He explains how Trump has been anxious to work with him on chronic disease, and they spoke to each other a few minutes later, and then they met in person the next day.
He told me President Trump was anxious to talk to me about chronic disease and other subjects, and to explore avenues of cooperation. He asked if I would take a call from the president. President Trump telephoned me a few minutes later, and I met with him the following day.
A few weeks later, they met again, and he was surprised they were so in line with each other, wanting to help Americans. Trump wanted him to join together as a unity party.
A few weeks later, I met again with President Trump and his family members and closest advisors in Florida. In a series of long, intense discussions, I was surprised to discover that we are aligned on many key issues. In those meetings, he suggested that we join forces as a unity party.
Trump spoke to him about being Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals, which in this book, it describes Lincoln's most successful attempts to reconcile conflicting personalities and political factions on the path to abolition and victory in the American Civil War, which is exactly what Trump has done. Simply amazing.
We talked about Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals. That arrangement would allow us to disagree publicly and privately, and fiercely if need be, on issues over which we differ, while working together on the existential issues upon which we are in concordance.
He explains how they're putting their differences aside and working together on the most important issues of our day.
To have very serious differences, but we are aligned with each other on other key issues like ending the forever wars, ending the childhood disease epidemics, securing the border, protecting freedom of speech, unraveling the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies, getting the U.S. intelligence agencies out of the business of propagandizing and censoring and surveilling Americans, and interfering with our elections.
He explains he's using this monumental moment in time to help save our children.
I feel a moral obligation to use this opportunity to save millions of American children, above all things.
He explains how he prayed for 19 years for this day so he could help us.
For 19 years, I prayed every morning that God would put me in a position to end this calamity. The chronic disease crisis was one of the primary reasons for my running for president, along with ending censorship in the Ukraine war. It's the reason I've made the heart-wrenching decision to suspend my campaign and to support President Trump.
He says within 4 years during Trump's presidency, they will help make Americans healthier and happier again.
Within 4 years, America will be a healthy country. We will be stronger, more resilient, more optimistic, and happier. I won't fail in doing this.
And ends with, this is the only way to save our country, if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country and our children is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other. The most unifying theme for all Americans is that we all love our children. If we all unite around that issue now, we can finally give them the protection, the health, and the future that they deserve. Thank you all very much.
If you like this style of educational breakdown of Kennedy, please comment below. I hope you have a blessed day, and thanks for watching.